I'm Roberta Glass, and you're listening to my True Crime Report. Jeffrey Epstein, accused sex trafficker, dies by suicide. By Ella Torres, Aaron Kitarski, and Luke Barr. Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced millionaire who was facing sex trafficking charges, died by suicide early Saturday in his lower Manhattan prison cell, 3 law enforcement officials told ABC News. Epstein hanged himself, law enforcement sources say. He was transported in cardiac arrest at 6:39 a.m. from Metropolitan Correctional Center to New York Downtown Hospital, according to sources. Epstein, 66, was set to stand trial next year for allegedly sexually abusing dozens of minor girls in New York and Florida. His death came less than 3 weeks after he was found unresponsive in his cell at the federal prison in Lower Manhattan with marks on his neck that appeared to be self-inflicted, sources told ABC News. He has been on suicide watch since the July 23rd incident. Epstein was arrested in July of this year for allegedly sex trafficking of minor girls at his Upper East Side mansion and his home in Palm Beach, Florida. Some of the charges date back to the early 2000s. Epstein, 66, pleaded not guilty to the charges. He faces up to 45 years in prison if convicted. His alleged crimes were thrown back into the spotlight amid renewed scrutiny of the plea deal Epstein reached with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Miami in 2007, led by then U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta. A non-prosecution agreement allowed Epstein, a hedge fund manager, to plead guilty to 2 state charges and avoid federal charges for an allegedly broad pattern of similar sexual misconduct. He would serve just 13 months of an 18-month sentence in county jail in Florida. The alleged victims in that case told ABC News that they were not made aware of the details of the plea agreement while it was being negotiated. The deal is currently under review by the Justice Department's Office of Professional Responsibility. Acosta was serving as President Trump's labor secretary amid the controversy over his role in the deal. He later resigned from that position. On Friday, a federal appellate court in New York unsealed around 2,000 pages of documents. And I was at one of those early hearings about the unsealing of those documents, and I will put the link in the description of this video. From a now settled civil defamation case between Virginia Roberts Giuffre, an alleged Epstein victim, and British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, a longtime Epstein associate. If anyone knows how to pronounce her name, I've heard it sort of like Ghislaine Maxwell. It may be closer to that than the way I just pronounced it. Giuffre accused Maxwell of recruiting her while she was working as a locker room attendant at Mar-a-Lago in 2000 and bringing her to Epstein's home for a massage. She claims that she eventually became a teen sex slave to Epstein and a victim of sex trafficking, beginning at age 17 at the hands of both Epstein and Maxwell. The newly unsealed documents showed that Giuffre alleged that Epstein and Maxwell directed her to have sex with, among others, Prince Andrew, criminal defense attorney Alan Dershowitz, former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, former Senator George Mitchell, a well-known prime minister who she wouldn't name, and a foreign man who was introduced to her as a prince. That's interesting. Maxwell has consistently denied Giuffre's claims, though she paid her out. She made a settlement in a defamation suit. So, Ghislaine Maxwell did not participate in facilitate, manage, or otherwise conspire to commit sex trafficking, quote-unquote, as alleged by Giuffre, her attorney wrote in a 2016 court filing. Maxwell's attorneys also contend in the newly unsealed court filings that Giuffre had utterly failed, quote unquote, to substantiate her allegations that Maxwell facilitated her abuse. Giuffre's claims about having been trafficked to other prominent men, Maxwell's lawyers wrote, are, quote, patently incredible, unquote. Mitchell called the allegations false, quote unquote. I have never met, spoken with, or had any contact with Ms. Giuffre, he said in a statement issued Friday. Gosh, doesn't that sound like Bill Clinton? Quote, in my contacts with Mr. Epstein, I never observed or suspected any inappropriate conduct with underage girls. I only learned of his actions when they were reported in the media related to his prosecution in Florida. We had no further contact. Who believes that? Just write in the comments if you believe Mitchell. Richardson also denied Giuffre's claims. These allegations and inferences are completely false. Governor Richardson has never been contacted by any party regarding this lawsuit, Maddie Mahoney, a spokeswoman for Richardson, said in a statement. To be clear, in Governor Richardson's limited interactions with Mr. Epstein, he never saw him in the presence of young or underage girls. Governor Richardson has never been to Epstein's residence in the Virginia Islands. Governor Richardson has never met Ms. Giuffre. Giuffre's allegations were never tested in court because the case was settled prior to trial. During a detention hearing in July, Epstein came face-to-face with two other accusers. Annie Farmer said she was 16 when Epstein had her sent to New Mexico, where he was allegedly, quote, inappropriate, unquote, with her. Courtney Wild told the judge she was 16 when Epstein allegedly sexually abused her in Palm Beach, Florida. Both women spoke in support of keeping Epstein locked up without bail. Epstein appeared to watch them address the judge, but his face showed no emotion. A federal judge later denied bail for Epstein after deciding he was too great a flight risk to release from custody. Okay, so that's the end of the article, and I'm really very angry that this happened. Obviously, Epstein tried to commit suicide 2 weeks ago, or, the 23rd. That's more than, it's around, I guess, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And I just don't understand why they couldn't keep him safe. And I'm also disappointed because this seems to be a pattern in the American justice system where you talk about one guy taking the fall. Obviously, this was Epstein's empire. He's the person most responsible. But there's a lot of other people who made this thing work. And I think that this story will probably die here as far as seeing justice for the victims. I can't see anyone else being prosecuted. Can you? Let me know in the comments section if you think other people will be prosecuted. It's just a really disappointing thing to have happened. Obviously, I'm not sad to have Epstein off the face of the earth. I think he was a terrible man, but it just seems like, a coward's exit after living a really very harmful life to women and girls everywhere. So I hope more victims come forward. I think it's kind of like we need, unfortunately still, many, many women's voices to be credible. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. And I hear AOC is calling for an investigation into the prison, and it really makes you think about when we need better prisons, we need better guards, obviously, right? I don't know. I understand the other side of it too. When I sat in the NXIVM trial, you have this impulse where you're like, prison is too good, When I sat in the trial and I was looking at Raniere, I was thought, prison is just too good for this guy. There's just no justice. What would be a just punishment for the things that I'm hearing? I really understand that. But at the same time, situations like this where Epstein evades justice because he's able to somehow hang himself in his cell on suicide watch, that's not justice. I'll see you back next time.